And
Good evening, 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 ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to WeatherBrains 669, the pre-show, magically the time of the show where we talk boring personal stories, we share humorous anecdotes, and we say something outrageous. Bill, I'm sorry I interrupted. The blue light came on when you were talking.
Before you turn on the show. You know, the hardest thing, James, is when you have to take somebody off the email forward. You know,
yeah, we're sad. We're
tripped off. You know, it's just terrible.
Very, very, very sad because one of our longtime panelists is leaving. I might start crying. Old men cry very easily in their old age.
I like Aubrey's response. No. and Kevin's I like even better. I'm driving up there and fixing this.
Those that don't know, Rick Smith, he's missed a lot lately, and he just feels like his schedule is beginning to conflict with the show, and he just thought it's in everybody's best interest that he would step down as a regular weekly member of the show, which we hate because he was he was the University of Common Sense here. Rick is our one common sense guy. But I'm inviting everybody here, so let's see here. Maybe Nate will join us tonight. Who knows where Nate is? And I always invite Kim because one night she's going to shock us and come off maternity leave. And I always invite Brian because one week he's going to be coming off medical leave. So I've got to go find. It's so weird, you know. The Aubrey is just like vanished from the Google. I mean, she just doesn't exist anymore.
Look up Troy and see if you see him, James, because you got to add him to your list. And I could not get him to see an invite through Google Hangouts. I could email it to him, and I could text it to him, but I couldn't get him to be able to see the invite in his.
I'm pretty sure he's in here.
Dr. John too. Yeah, I know you have Troy in there. And it's not his UT Texas one or UT, I guess UT.
Well, actually, he doesn't. Normally, you invite him and they just autofill, but I've got his email I find here. I just had to figure out which email. He's got
it's
one.
Like Kimmel Weather or something.
Yeah. That's the one I've got in here. So let me.
I have invited him by email just in case, but I told him we got to get that worked out where he can see your invites.
And let's see.
For that, Dr. John.
And even he doesn't show up anymore. It's just weird. I don't understand. Really Google strange. Plus is going away. And this used to be a Google Plus thing, and now it's a YouTube thing. They're just Google. I don't know. It's like they launch things and they just take them down. Remember Google Wave? Like hardly anybody remembers Google Wave.
We were out there on the forefront of Google Wave,
and they just kind of like. Pulled the plug. Google Reader, I think they pulled the plug on that one. So let me find Dr. John. Ooh, and if Dr. John is coming back.
And we have
JB, did you see this one? Whoop, wrong button. You know what? I get to play. The year was 1973. 1973, I was in high school. I was in high school working at a radio station, playing top 40 music on the AM radio, playing the midnight to 6 shift, playing the greatest hits, including this one from New Orleans, Louisiana. The guy's name is Dr. John. Not our Dr. John, but this was another Dr. John. He was in the right place, but in the wrong time.
I've been in the right place, but it must have been the wrong time.
All right, enough of that foolishness. I'm sorry. Speaking of Dr. John, he just showed up.
He showed up right when you started the music. What is the deal?
Wow. Now we can't hear him. Hey, John, we can't hear your audio.
Yeah, that sort of defeats the purpose. He's got the gray hair, but we need to be able to hear him.
No, he has the hair of an angel. I mean, nobody should have hair that good. It's just like, whenever I see John, I want to just tug and see if it'll come off. It's a tope or a weave or something. I mean, yeah, I got to be careful. You know, they'll yank you off YouTube if you play too much of this music. I mean,
is that Dr. Hook? Is that who that is, James?
Do what now?
Is that Dr. Hook that sang that song?
No, Dr. John. That is Dr. John. That's the reason I play the song every time Dr. John comes on.
I thought the song was Dr. John. I should know better.
No, the song is called Right Place, Wrong Time by Dr. John. So,
all right, we have to get Troy Kimmel on here, and he says that invite tells him that he can't use Firefox and he doesn't have Chrome. But we did a test hangout not 40 minutes ago, and he used Firefox. That makes no sense. That's a new platform.
Yeah, I don't think I'm using Safari here. I mean, I don't.
Yeah, he just did a hangout with Firefox. There's no way it could be that. He doesn't like maybe it doesn't like the official ones. And you invited him.
I invited him with his email address, and it did pop up. So I think that was right. Hey, John, can you hear us? John can hear us, but we can't hear him.
And you're not muted on our end.
No, you were wide open here. Nobody said anything outrageous here yet. What can we say this outright? I got some audio from Kevin, and I have not listened to it. I have not listened to Kevin's audio.
Hey, Don. Is he going to be on the show? Or he's driving to Norman right now.
Who, Kevin is?
Yeah, that's what he said. He was going to fix this.
Oh, yeah. Going. Oh, well, but I got to. I hate to interrupt, but somebody sent in an audio segment. Our listeners are the best. This is J.B. Elliott playing Freebird on the bagpipes. Some of the stuff in this soundboard is just too good. I mean, I could sit here and amuse myself for hours listening to this stuff. Wow.
Tell us exactly what this is.
Well, Superstorm Nori packs more energy than Hurricane Sandy.
Who is that guy? The title of that clip is CBS Insanity.
Bill Nye.
J.B. Elliott, what's a fact that maybe we don't know about you?
I am an open book. You know everything about me that's to be known.
Have you ever milked a cow?
Yes, many times.
Have you ever fed the pigs?
Yes, many times.
Have you ever had an incident where a cow almost kicked you that you were milking?
She didn't almost.
Oh, man.
Yeah, those are priceless.
I miss JB.
I know tonight when I thought, in the emails, I was like, oh, man.
Would run. Birmingham TV viewers want a change. They're tired of James Spann's cakes and bobble-headed dolls. When he's not goofing off visiting schools, James Spann uses weather rocks to write his forecast.
Brian Peters wants to be your chief meteorologist, but
there's some good stuff in here. No, John, we cannot hear you. There's an option to change the source, that little gear in settings. You can choose your audio and video source. Maybe that would help. Other than that, I don't know. My heart is so warm that Dr. John is back. It's just very warm.
Yeah, it really is. So we don't want to run him off by not being able to get him on the show.
No, we gotta fix this problem. So my little buddy, I can't believe I'm sitting here watching my little buddy play quarterback for the San Francisco 49ers tonight. Kid named Nick Mullins. Nick played down the street at a local high school. Now our son played baseball, but during the baseball season, Mullins and a lot of the football guys had come over to support the baseball kids, and greatest guy. And, you blink and now he's the quarterback for the San Francisco 49ers, Nick Mullins. How does this happen? Wow. Hey, John, we heard you.
Yeah. Can you hear me now?
Much
yes.
better.
Woo,
all right.
What'd you do?
I found the little button. in the gearbox.
There you go.
That's good.
All right.
There you go. No, you look good, sound good. This is just fantastic.
Oh,
Man.
great to see you guys.
It is awesome having you on the
Even
show.
better
Man.
to see you.
I had such a good time in St. Louis. I said, well, I think it's about time I came back on.
Yay!
I think it is.
Aubrey.
I got so excited when I saw the email.
I'm here.
Woohoo!
Just too cool. So for those that didn't miss the, in fact, let's just wait till 30 after here. We're like 50 seconds out. I'll explain the whole thing again.
And we got to get our guest in too, James, by the way.
Do I need to do that, or do you need to do that?
I'm going to let you. I just sent him the email, but let's just in case. I want like
drop it in the chat room. Man, it has been a sleepy day here.
Yeah, it has, hasn't it? That's why I had to wear this big warm hoodie today because I worked outside on my screen porch all day because the rain was just wonderful.
Y'all, we're all wearing our hoodies here. Of course, I'm the guy that wears the branded WeatherBrains hoodie. Nobody else but me.
I stole mine. I figured I was going to catch some grief for wearing mine tonight, but whatever.
Oh, are you one of those bammers?
Yeah, Homer. Oh, Lord. Telemarketer.
You still have a phone at home? Okay. Wait, let's listen to him. Let's listen to him.
Hello. Take me off your list. So it's always there for. It's there for if because we don't have good cell service, so it's theirs and for emergency conference calls and things. But all it does is get telemarketing calls.
You're paying like $90 a month to have these creepers call you.
It is tied into my universe thing that you
No. The home phone is like $3 a month now.
The worst deal, James. It's been terrible. I finally lit into some guy in Calcutta on Friday, and they got somebody out here on Saturday to fix my problem.
Yeah, time out. Let's welcome our television viewers quick. 30 after the hour here. Welcome to those watching on television. This is WeatherBrains. We're about to start the show. And I know we do have a lot of rain here, but there's nothing severe. So if you've been watching radar and you're saying, who are these knuckleheads? Don't worry. We will enlighten your evening. We will share some magical moments with you. And Bill was on some tirade about AT&T Uverse or something.
Yeah, but they fixed my problem, so I'm up to date.
The minute the TV hit, that's when you were on the tirade. So we lost them as a sponsor. And then, let me just say, I've had no problems with them. I've got AT&T fiber at my house. It's screaming fast. I mean, it is screaming.
For 3 weeks.
You got fiber, Bill?
Yeah, I got fiber. I got cable. I got a $10 telephone that only rings, with telemarketers.
Yeah, great. I would never get that telephone deal. So you got a gigabit fiber? Is that you got the big pocket?
I got a gigabit. It generally runs about 700 down and 700 up.
Yeah, I think the highest I've ever seen on mine was 911. It tests like every day on the little router software, and you can kind of see it, but it's amazingly good.
The internet is snappy. It was the television that had me in a tirade.
I'm pretty excited because I don't have to be the accelerant tonight. Bill has been complaining since I logged in.
So somebody just put on the for all these people that send messages on the tweeter now, I have to tell Kevin because he has deleted all of his social media accounts.
Oh yeah. What's up?
Tell the accelerant that he has missed on social media.
Oh wow.
We could use a little accelerant on this frigid Oklahoma day.
Well, since I'm gone from social media, I've proudly arranged for John Scala to come back on the show. So that's why.
Yeah. That's how that works.
Hi, John. That's exciting.
Hi, Kevin.
Hey, good to see you.
You too.
So let's get this thing started. First off, let's see. Troy, give me a mic check real quick.
Mic check 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
You got a professional setup there. That's nice. I mean, that is.
He is microphone envy.
I'm talking to Bill, trying to get this computer. Anyone got any computer brains here that can help me? I'm not saying that Bill can't, but I mean, I can't. So,
no negative
feelings.
Troy. That'll fix it.
Bill, your audio is broken up like crazy.
Yeah, Bill, it's almost like your bandwidth is constrained. I was going to say that he's got the gigabit fiber and his bandwidth is constrained.
It's going to be another call to AT&T.
Oh, Lord. Oh, boy.
Quit playing Call of Duty and come do the show.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
He's got night call nurses streaming on his TV, and he's got all the video games going in there. I mean, there's no telling what he's doing now.
Probably right about the 2 games of Fortnite going on upstairs. That might be the problem.
Matthew, can you hear us okay?
Yeah, I can hear y'all. Do you want me to do a mic check or anything, or do I sound okay?
You just did. Great. It sounds great.
Okay, great.
You got good bandwidth. Good bandwidth.
Okay, good. Great to hear.
Let's get this thing started here because we're like slightly tardy. So let me click on the recorders. This is track number 1 and track number 2. And here we go in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. This is WeatherBrains episode number 669, the weekly show that's all about weather for the 12th of November, 2018. I can't believe it. Like next week is Thanksgiving. What happened to this year? Goodness gracious.
There are only 6 shows between now and Christmas, including this one.
What? When did this happen?
So let's just say right up front here, we have some horrible news and we have some marvelous news. Bad news, good news. What do you want first?
Bad.
Bad. So one of our longtime
going to Norman and taking care of it. Kevin, has that been handled yet?
I'm sorry, you broke up, Bill.
Lord.
Bill's head is going to explode. He sounds like he's on a 9600 baud modem and he's supposed to have gigabit fiber. Wow.
I'll say yes is the answer to the question, even though I don't know what it was.
Yeah, so
didn't care of the problem yet.
I don't know the problem.
So the sad news is that longtime guest panelist Rick Smith, warning coordination meteorologist at the National Weather Service in Norman, brilliant scientist, just incredible all-around person who's been so good for the Weather Enterprise. He has decided that with time conflicts and things going on in his life, he just won't be able to be with us on a regular basis anymore. So Rick is welcome anytime he wants to come back. Yeah. But that's the bad news. But on the positive side, the man with the golden pipes and the hair of an angel is back, gentlemen. I mean, do you know how happy it makes me to be able to play this song right now to talk about Dr. John Scala? For those people that don't know, this song came out in 1973 by a guy named Dr. John. So that's the reason we play this when John's on the show. But John is coming back. John, you are now the official University of Common Sense member here on the show. Welcome back.
I'm glad to see I could bring the level of common sense back.
Someone had to.
Yes. Good point. So, and also, Bill, I guess we need to introduce Troy as an official member of the show now, in addition to John coming back. Is that right, Bill?
Right, and try, so I may let you do it, James.
So I've known Troy since we were kids, Troy, back in the 70s or 80s or something. And we go back a long way. And Troy is one of the legends in the Weather Enterprise, and he's got the big pipes, and he's got some good looking TV hair there. I mean, how do you keep all your hair? What's the deal with this?
I just straightened it up. No, it's it's just, I don't know. I lucked out from heredity or something. I'm not sure.
How is it, James, that if you've known him for 40 years, he looks so much younger than you do?
Oh man,
I met Troy when he was 2. He was 2 years old, and I was doing a preschool talk, and he was in the class. But no. So Troy, welcome to the show, and we apologize in advance for any issues that come up
here. Yeah, but this is the first thing either you and I have ever been involved with. The first thing you get is an apology. You get an apology, the first thing. I like that proactivity.
So anyway, so Rick is not going to be with us every week, and look, we're going to have Rick on. I mean, he'll be around, and So Troy is in and Dr. John is back. So that warms my heart. So it is awesome to have you two guys on the show here. Aubrey, is your heart warm as well?
My heart is warm now that Dr. John is back. Yes, yes, it is. But it's slightly cold. It's slightly cold that Rick is no longer with us.
Yeah.
For the time being. But I'm trying to stay warm ahead of winter.
So, and before Bill brings in our guest, Kevin, we have to ask. So you've been off social media, and for those that don't know, Kevin deleted every social media account. Yep. He is not on the Twitter. He is not on the Facebook. How is life away from social media?
Yeah. For a couple of days, there was like this withdrawal period. And then beyond that, there was like, wow, I have nice pictures or things like that I would love to share with people. And I don't really have a place to do it. And that lasted for maybe 5 days. And now I kind of just don't care.
I have to say I'm very jealous because actually ever since I started my Instagram account, I feel like I've been on my phone more and more and having to tell myself to put it down. So I envy you. And you know what you could always do? You could always just put your stuff on Flickr. That way it's still up there and people can go see your amazing pictures, but you don't have to deal with comments or anything.
Well, you know what? They're changing their terms as well. They'd have,
but only 1,000 pictures.
They gave everybody a terabyte, and now the new owner is rolling that back, and everybody gets only 1,000 pictures. Yeah, so.
Why don't you just make a better social network, Kevin? Let's just do that. We'll start with digital meteorologists. We'll just make a meteorologist social network.
I'll tell you what I would do in a minute if I had the resources is I would come up with something that I would hopefully call like groups.com, because one of the biggest things that I got out of Facebook was the groups that I was in, and there was only a handful of them, but there was a great deal of value there. And if I could start groups.com and make it, something that was not surveilled by Mark Zuckerberg and Sheryl Sandberg, I think that I would do that in a minute, and I think it would be enormously successful. I actually read something today. Well, I think I sent it to you guys. It was a headline from Forbes magazine that said, we're entering the post-Facebook era, and the logic or the reasoning was that that whatever their research was showed that younger people, especially in their 20s, were not using Facebook as much. And one of the examples they gave, which I thought was fascinating, was that employers were saying that they're having more difficulty now checking up on potential candidates. Apparently, for a long time, one of the things was to go and see if your drunken college party pictures were on your Facebook page, and they were using that in the interview process. And they're seeing less and less of that, which I thought was really interesting.
Ethernet not working.
So, I was going to say, so Kevin, they don't do this in your market where they rank you.
No, we don't have to deal with that. Thankfully, I know everybody else does, and I'm kind of blessed in not having to fool with that. But I mean, I'll put stuff up if they want, but I'm no one's noticed. So,
so do you still work? Do content on the station Facebook page or Twitter account, or is that just totally off the board too?
Just putting up the 7-day, because that's all they. I told you it wasn't much of a thing here, and that's all they really were looking for to begin with. So, we do that twice a day, I guess, in the morning and the afternoon. But that aside, unless you want to talk social media more, you look like you're about to say something, James.
No. I was just looking for the opportunity to.
Let's get social with social media.
I've been slow in the trigger tonight. Sorry.
All right. Well, then, before we go on, do you have the thing that I sent you?
Yes. We're going to do. Let's do that now. I like it. Ready?
Setup. Yeah, don't play it. The setup is this. Last week, if you were here, Aubrey brought up the Modoki El Nino.
Oh.
We all went, what? Huh? When Mohoki who what? And so I dove in the absence of Brian Peters, since we haven't had, WeatherBrains 101. I dove in and did a little research, got a brief explanation of the Modoki El Nino. But as I did my research, I became very concerned. I think we're going to have a problem coming into the wintertime with the notifications and the reporting of the Modoki El Nino with some of the other players in the weather enterprise.
All right.
We interrupt this program for a CBS Radio Net Alert Bulletin.
From WeatherBrains International Headquarters, this is a special edition of WeatherBrains 101.
It's called the Super Madoki Enhanced Radiance Field, or SMRF Index. First proposed in Japan by Dr. Yamagata at the Japanese Agency for Marine and Earth Science, the Madoki El Niño is characterized by a strong ocean warming in the Central Pacific. To avoid confusion, there are 3 different scales. The first will be issued by the government and is made out of 10 cute, cartoon-like blue faces ranging from happy to sad, kind of like the pain scale you see at the doctor's office. The second scale comes from Mike Smythe at AccuWeather and is a series of increasingly large flaming arrows pointed at a National Weather Service logo and will be forecast 365 days in advance. And the third and final scale will be Kikana from the Weather Channel, a series of 74 random numbers with no peer-reviewed meaning. Each occurrence will be given a series of Japanese names that no one in this country can read. The National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration is throwing its weight behind the plan, which has the full support of the U.S. government all the way to the White House.
Together, we will make America strong again. We will make America wealthy again. We will make America proud again. We will make America safe again. And yes, together, we will make America
Madoki
again.
So I'm hopeful that, the other players will fall in line and maybe not go too crazy with this, but I'm a little bit worried.
Wow.
That's the end of the show. We finally realized we reached the end of the show.
Best clip ever.
That's awesome.
I think we should just shut it down now. There's nowhere to go for after that.
I did not listen to this. I just dropped it in the soundboard, played it without hearing it, and that was just awesome.
All right. I'm gonna go. Bye.
The Steppenwolf made it. That just set the whole. Yeah. That set the stage. All right, Bill. The floor belongs to you. I'm done.
I don't even know where we are anymore. I hope you can hear me. I think we've introduced Troy, basically something new. We've introduced Dr. John, something old. I was blue because. Well, I mean, old analyst. Rick Smith made me blue, so I don't know what the borrowed is, but I think we'll borrow Matt Porcher tonight. Matt is from Austin, Texas, and there he is in charge, or is senior system administrator for the city of Austin's flood early warning system team, which is part of their watershed protection department. Matt, welcome to the show.
Thank you all for having me. I appreciate it.
Now, it was very fortuitous that we invited Troy Kimmel tonight and indoctrinated him as a permanent panelist, because I understand you and Troy are good friends.
That's awesome. Yeah, I was so excited to log in and see Troy, and Troy is a legendary meteorologist in the Lone Star State, and I'm a huge fan of Troy, and I'm really honored to consider Troy a friend. So it's really awesome that Troy is here.
Now, it's good to see you too, Matt. I think that I think it's really interesting that you're part of this, because what you've done is just here in the city of Austin, and I hope that maybe I've helped you along the way, but what Matt has done, guys, is just really incredible. And it's a government agency that has responded to the people's request, basically, for information here in the city of Austin.
So talk about the program that you guys have put together, Matt, and how it's evolved over time.
Okay, sure. So I'm part of the City of Austin's Flood Early Warning System, or FUSE team. And so I work for a former broadcast meteorologist, Scott Princeton. So he is the head of the FUSE team. And so I've been a part of the team for, 13, 14 years now. And so we're the folks who monitor the weather. And when we have heavy rainfall, respond to the Austin Travis County Emergency Operations Center. And that's where I am today. And so we run a few different projects, and one of our projects is atxfloods.com. It's a website that shows all the frequently flooded roads and low water crossings in Austin, Central Texas. And the original idea for this came from Troy Kimmel. And so Troy gave a presentation. I remember it like it was yesterday. It was December 10th, 2010. And so Troy gave a presentation at the Texas Flash Flood Coalition, and Troy was working for one of the TV stations then, and he said the city needs to do a better job of showing where these flooded roads are. And so at the time, basically what we did is we'd go to our OEM, our Office of Emergency Management website, and we would just have a little text field, and we'd just write in what road was flooded, and that was it. And so Troy said, you guys can do a better job. And what he suggested is he wants to see a map with a bunch of dots on it. Very simple and easy to use. Green, it's open, and red, it's closed. And we thought, Troy, that is a fantastic idea, but we're a small team. We've just got 4 people on staff. And so we loved the idea, but we didn't know what to do with it. And then about 2 years later, we met a group called Code for America, and they built the very first version of ATX floods based on Troy Kimmel's idea. So Troy is the originator of one of our most successful programs.
Well, I've got to tell you, though, you and the people over in Watershed Protection, though, Matt, have really, I mean, I may have given you an idea, but y'all have done all the hard work. And it really, guys, is impressive, again, what they've come up with, from going from essentially text listings to having this graphic, this very visual type webpage. And Matt and them guys have even gone to more where they're starting to put cameras online at these locations. So we have actually video in addition to this one's closed. The amazing thing is this thing started out, Matt, very small in the city of Austin. And tell me how many counties and how many municipalities now we have as partners in this, in the city of Austin. It really truly shows what y'all have done to bring people in from way outside the city of Austin.
Awesome. Thank you, Troy. Yeah, so we launched, I guess we say September 1st, 2012, and it was just the city of Austin, and we probably had, I don't know, like 30 low water crossings or frequently flooded roads. So those ones that close most often when we have heavy rainfall. And then we had a really big event, and that was the Halloween flood of 2013, and that was really a game changer for my office. And one of the epiphanies we had is that flooding is a regional problem, and it's not a jurisdictional problem. And we said, the whole region needs source. So what we did is we went to the emergency manager of the county at the time, Pete Baldwin, and he helped us get it spread out to the county. And then just working with the emergency managers in the county north of us, Jared Thomas, and in the county south of us, Carly Smith, we turned it into kind of a multi-county. And then we were just like, let's try to spread it out as much as we can. And so we focused on the 10-county region around Central Texas, the Capital Area Council of Governments. And so we just opened it up to everybody and said, if you'd like to be on here, we're not going to charge you anything. All we do is we ask that you keep it as up to date as possible. So when your jurisdiction closes the road, please go in and mark it as closed. And then as soon as it's safe to pass, please go in and open that road up. So the city of Austin, excuse me, we see it as kind of a platform that we offer to the Central Texas region.
And Matt, I mean, from what I understand, maybe completely wrong, but at some point in this process, you actually had people from outside of the area calling you, wanting to be involved, right? I mean, there were people from other governments out there, even though the outreach was going on. You had people that were recognizing what you were doing.
Yeah, correct. Yes, sir. Yeah. So we've had other jurisdictions, ask us for the code, and we've shared the code. I think the only one that's really done something with it is San Antonio and Bexar County to the south of us, and they launched their very own version of the website. I think it's like bearfloods.org, based on the code that we gave them, and they did a fantastic job. They really took it to the next level, added some features that we weren't able to do, and they've been running it for a couple of years now. And so I'd really love to see a statewide website for flooded roads in Texas. And so my dream is really to take the A off of ATX floods and make it TX floods. And so we own that domain. It's just that's kind of outside of our scope and mission to do a statewide website. But, I'm always trying to find a way if we could make that happen. That would be my dream.
So Troy and Matt, talk for a minute about the climatology of the hill country in South Texas flooding, because some really disastrous floods have happened there. And you mentioned this Halloween 2013 one. Talk about, what causes these big floods all the time.
Well, it's kind of a regional thing, and I'll let Matt discuss it as well. But, up and down I-35 from San Antonio through the Austin area back up to Waco and Temple, this area is referred to as Flash Flood Alley, and it has a lot to do with, obviously, you've got to have the moisture and the other things at play. But the three main reasons that this is Flash Flood Alley is, number one, simply because of the urbanization that we're seeing along the I-35 corridor. If you've been to Austin lately, you know what I mean. And then you get into the hilly nature of the Texas Hill Country to the west of the area. And then those areas along and west of I-35, number three, a lot of subsoil limestone layers, which do not allow the water, especially when it falls at high rainfall rates, to be able to soak in. It simply runs off. And it all kind of makes for a perfect storm, especially in the central and western part of the metro area, from Travis County, which is Austin's end, up into Williamson County, Georgetown, back south to San Marcos, and along and west of the I-35 corridor. It basically makes for the perfect type flash flood ingredients to create these disaster type floods. Matt, have I summed that up pretty good, you think?
Troy, you nailed it. Yeah, so Austin, the capital city, is in the heart of this area known as Flash Flood Alley, and Texas leads the nation in flash flood deaths. So it is a major problem for us here in Central Texas.
So talk about some of the worst events that have happened. I remember like it was yesterday, J.B. Elliott on the NOAA Weather Radio in 1978 describing the flooding in the hill country during Tropical Storm Amelia. And, he was reading these statements because it was a boring summer weather day here. And, we were just, enthralled listening to these reports of what was going on. And that stuck with me all these years. So talk about some of the bigger events like 2013, man.
Sure. Well, I guess the big kind of modern defining event for flash flooding in Austin is the 1981 Memorial Day flood. So 13 people died in that flood, 11 of those in vehicles. So we're finding that the majority of our flash flood deaths happen in vehicles. So this 1981 event really impacted the Shoal Creek watershed, like the very first Whole Foods location that backed up to Shoal Creek, and that flooded, and the owners were very resilient and bounced back and were very, very successful after they were flooded. And so the 1981 Memorial Day flood caused the city of Austin to create our very first Office of Emergency Management, as well as the predecessor of my department, which was kind of our first drainage utility. And they realized, all right, we have these devastating floods, and this is our biggest kind of emergency. So we're gonna create some departments to maybe better respond to these things. And so we've had some major floods, pretty much every 10 years, it seems like. But in my career, I guess by far and away the biggest one is the Halloween flood of 2013. So that's kind of like our 9/11 type event. We think of policies and procedures as pre-Halloween and post-Halloween. There is the way we did things pre-Halloween and the way we thought pre-Halloween, and then that radically changed after Halloween 2013. We just didn't think flooding could be that bad as it was in Halloween 2013. 4 people in the city lost their lives. Close to 1,000 homes flooded in kind of the southeast portion of town, in the Onion Creek watershed, which is a watershed, of course, being the area of land that drains to a creek or a river. This was just a gigantic watershed. It's bigger than the city of Austin. It encompasses parts of 3 Texas counties: Travis County, Hayes County, and a little bit of Blanco County. And so we had just a bunch of heavy rainfall in the upper portion of that watershed, and all drained out. Imagine kind of a funnel. So all this heavy rainfall coming into the top end of the funnel and having to drain out into the small end of the funnel, and it just decimated these neighborhoods in the Onion Creek area.
But you talked about another flood that came along at Halloween of 2015, and that's very interesting and coincidental that it was also a Halloween flood. But talk about the difference when you got to 2015 versus the legendary flood in 2013, man.
Sure. So yeah, 2015 was a pretty bad year for flooding also. So we had our second Memorial Day flood, and then our second Halloween flood. And so, Troy, I think everyone knows the flood response to the 2013 Halloween flood was not great. It was a pretty humbling experience for the Fuse team, and I think the city in general. We were kind of widely criticized by the media and the public, and it was the biggest thing that any of us had ever worked. We didn't think it would be that bad, right. And so there are so many lessons learned from that Halloween flood of 2013. It really just it changed the way we did things, and we improved so much. And I think you'll see kind of a night and day difference between the 2013 flood and the 2015 Halloween flood.
Matt, the website looks. I'm sorry.
No, it's just going to say, Kevin, that it's interesting in Austin because these watersheds that we mentioned, and everyone's in a watershed, but these are real flashy. This one down Onion Creek that Matt was talking about, that heaviest rainfall didn't fall in the city. It fell in the northern parts of Hayes County, which is a county to the south. And that's what caught some folks by surprise on that one. And it's the same way. You go 50 miles north, everything drains off the Brazos River to the northeast of us, and around here it goes to Colorado. To the south, it ends up going to the Guadalupe River. So it's we're really caught in a real interesting situation where a difference of this torrential rain of 10 to 15 miles makes a tremendous difference on what type of watershed or what watershed this stuff's going into.
Go ahead, John.
Okay, thanks, Kevin. Yeah, Matt and Troy, here in the East, we've got an issue with a couple of locations experiencing 1,000-year events a couple of years apart, where the public believes that when you have a 100-year event, you're good for the next 99 years, right? It's not going to happen again. But tell that to the folks of Ellicott City, Maryland, who back in May of this year experienced 7 to 9 inches of rain in just a couple of hours. And you were talking about some changes in urban development that's occurring in the Hill Country, Austin specifically. Well, Maryland, in Ellicott City, which is west of Baltimore, what they've decided to do is replace the land with impermeable surface. So they're building apartment buildings and parking lots. And so now the main street through Ellicott City is now the main tributary to the Patapsco, which feeds into the city of Baltimore, well, around the city of Baltimore. Yeah. So what's happening now is you get these heavy rain events that sit on the high terrain, and Main Street becomes the main tributary, and the flooding there has been absolutely spectacular, and it's happened twice in 2 years. So it makes you wonder who's behind the urban planning.
Yeah, well, Matt, you look back at the Memorial Day floods that Matt talked about, John. Here in Austin, we had 10, 12 inches of rain up on Shoal Creek. And in that area, at that point, John, everything was grassy. It was a field. And tell me what Mopac that area is like now, Matt. I mean, it's the Home Depot parking lot and everything else is paved over. I don't know where we go if we have that same rain event. No matter what they've done to mitigate the problem, it's never going to keep up with the urbanization.
Yeah, I 100% agree. And just one thing, I have to comment on the 1,000-year flood. The term like 100-year flood and 100-year floodplain, those are terrible analogies. I absolutely hate that analogy. It's so misleading. And so you hear a 1,000-year flood. Oh, well, gosh, this is not going to happen again forever. Right. Oh, and sure. I mean, like a 100-year flood means there's a 1% risk of that flood happening. Like I can't stand this analogy. It's terrible. It is so confusing and so misleading.
Yeah, Matt. So an interesting plot would be to take a look at the recurrence interval of a 100-year flood. It's not once in 100 years, right? It's like there's a 19% recurrence interval on a year-to-year basis.
I mean, we floods and watersheds back to back to back. I mean,
right.
We're having these all the time.
So the horse is out of the barn. How do you deal with an environment that has been changed due to urbanization? And we've got an environment now that's warmer in most locations. It's got more water vapor in it. We can't go backwards. How do we deal with this?
I mean, I don't know a whole lot about Ellicott City. I've seen the YouTube videos of the first horrible flood they had. I think it was some people eating in a restaurant, and they go out the window and they see the cars being washed away. And then 2 years later, it seemed like that exact same area flooded again, almost as bad, or if not the same. So I don't know what the answer is for Ellicott City. I mean, just my personal opinion in Austin, I think the best kind of flood mitigation strategy is strict building codes, which are enforced. I mean, I think that's the best thing. And one of the other things that the city of Austin has been doing is a buyout program. And so this is a really expensive mitigation thing. It's basically where we identify homes in the floodplain, and we go and we buy the homes, buy out the residents, help them relocate to a new home that's outside the floodplain, and then demolish the home and turn it into parkland. That's really expensive to do, but it works. If you got the money to do it. Oh, yes, sir.
Yeah, no, I'm just going to say, and everyone on here, I mean, how about a little education, maybe? And this is the thing you run into the hurricane situation along the coastal areas, where people are building, where you're allowing people to build in zones that someday are going to wash away. And I think, I have occasionally people coming up about talking to me about, why don't we go out and just, and I'm serious, I've had this a couple of times. Why don't we just go out and get rid of the hurricanes? We can bomb them away. Okay, that's fine. That's probably going to be no good for the environment. But number one, if we're that smart to do that, why aren't we smart enough to learn from our mistakes in the past and understand that if you're going to build in a bowl like the city of New Orleans, that someday the bowl's going to fill up. I think as a populace, I think we're smarter than that, aren't we?
You would think.
Taking away somebody's money, though, Troy. If we did that, somebody wouldn't make $1 bazillion with their coastal development.
Well, that's true, but I tell my students in class every day, one of the best things you can do in the future, wherever you decide to build or anything, is know where you build. Know how many feet above sea level, know those charts, know those flood charts, which we find out are probably after some floods this last year. They're certain, and the ones near Houston, they have to go back and look at those at the flood charts a little more, but at least be educated and know where you can find this stuff, and don't expect me as a taxpayer to come bail you out necessarily.
And force them to build responsibly at the same time.
I 100% agree with Troy on the importance of outreach and education. Like just this morning, I went to an office and spoke at one of their safety meetings about kind of flash flood safety. And, one of the things I always talk about is, like, I ask the audience, like, do you guys know if your home or apartment is in the floodplain? And then we show them how to look that up if they're in the city of Austin. That's just kind of basic situational awareness knowledge that you have to have in Austin, in the heart of Flash Flood Alley. Like, you really need to know this stuff.
But even then, telling people, to check whether they're in the floodplain, there were a lot of people in Houston, maybe 60, 70% of them that weren't in the floodplain that still got flooded out and could have had flood insurance for a very inexpensive amount. And I, here in Birmingham, Alabama, went to and I live second house from the top of the highest part of our community, and said, I want flood insurance. And they laughed at me. They literally laughed at me. And they said, you don't need flood insurance. I said, oh, yeah, I do. So they went and checked, and they said, well, it's only this much and blah, blah, blah. But, yeah, they literally did not want to sell me flood insurance.
I actually have a friend who lives in West Palm Beach. She was hit pretty hard by Hurricane Wilma. She was actually just taken out of the floodplain. And she told her insurance agent, she said, absolutely not. I am still keeping this flood insurance. I don't care. I'm not risking it. I live near the beach.
It just got cheaper. Wow. That's the good news.
Yeah.
But we've had the guys on, talking about the National Flood Insurance Program. So, talk about that for a second, Dr. John. Some changes have to be made somewhere, because, this is just the immovable object and the irresistible force at work.
Yeah, I agree, Bill. That program needs to be overhauled as well. It is not a buyout for those of you that want the risk. At some point, we shouldn't allow building to take place. How about after Hurricane Sandy? Manloking was rebuilt. In fact, one of the cases I've been involved in as a CCM has been to look at one of the buildings which was completely removed. That suit is actually it's in litigation right now. And so the homeowner has not rebuilt, but all around they've completely rebuilt.
Wow.
The horse is out of the barn again here.
And I cringe every time I see a hurricane in the Western Atlantic that might be going anywhere near New Jersey in that area. It just makes me cringe.
Mm-hmm.
So hey, Matt, let me ask about the website again. It's great looking, and you guys have done a nice job.
No, thank you.
Well, it looks clean and it's simple, and that's two really good things. But what is the use case for the public? Are they supposed to, just jump onto the website if they think there's flooding around? What's the vision for the public to use it?
So one thing that people ask us a lot is, like, are you going to do an app? And, we're a team of 4 people, and no, we're not going to do an app. And, I didn't want to get in the app business and, have to maintain multiple platforms. And then if you don't develop on one platform, then you get into the issues of the government is telling me what brand of phone I need to have. And so I just wanted to not deal with any of that stuff. So what we do is we have an open data feed. And so basically it's a machine readable format that people can grab and do anything you want with. And so we have a local guy who made an Android app and an iPhone app, and he grabs our open data feed and he makes it available. Oh, there you got it. Is that Brandon's app? Yeah, awesome. Yeah. So thanks to Brandon Arnold, Austin resident, who made two smartphone apps, one for Android and one for iPhone. And so anytime any of the jurisdictions update ATX floods, that data automatically goes into the app. So that's one way they can get it. And then our broadcast media are great about showing ATX floods whenever there's heavy rainfall. And they might do like wall-to-wall coverage. They'll frequently pull it up in the background, so when people are watching the news, they get the information there. And then we publicize it quite a bit. We go out and do lots of outreach and education events, and we always kind of promote the website. And so since launch in September 2012, we've had almost 10 million page views.
Wow. And so forgive me for forgetting already, but how is it populated? Somebody is responsible for a particular point and they enter the data?
Yeah. So each of the jurisdictions, both cities and counties in the Central Texas region, so the folks are responsible for closing the roads. We give them an account. And so that could be public works, it could be 911 dispatchers, it could be fire, it could be emergency management, it could be police, whoever. So basically in that jurisdiction, whoever does that, we give them a username and password. And then as their jurisdiction closes roads, then they log into the website and update it. So basically change the green dot to a red dot.
Thank you.
You've repeatedly mentioned partnerships here tonight, Matt, different things that have made the thing work. So talk about the importance of those partnerships.
Oh, sure. I think that is the most important thing, is having good working relationships and good partnerships. And I think we're just very fortunate in the Central Texas region that everyone, for the most part, pretty much gets along really well. And, I'm here in our combined city and county EOC, where we have our city emergency manager sitting next to our county emergency manager, and everyone in this room, when we have a flash flood, works together really well. And that includes working with the National Weather Service office in New Braunfels. Our boarding coordination meteorologist is Paul Ura. Paul runs an awesome shop, and he sends up his guys for our planned events like the Formula One Circuit of the Americas race, and different partner agencies like the Lower Colorado River Authority, the United States Geological Survey, who does a lot of gauging in our area. Just so many great working relationships that are in the area. I'm probably forgetting other people in University of Texas. Just so many different groups.
It's kind of interesting too, guys, that in Austin, how much participation we get from the broadcast media.
Right.
Austin's sort of a weird market as far as broadcast media, that every one of the broadcast people knows each other. They have each other's cell phone numbers. They talk to each other, and which I think benefits us as a whole. There's a lot of communication, a lot of great partners in the Austin area that really have contributed to a lot of what Matt and his team have done to the city of Austin. There are a lot of people involved, and there's no big turf wars in Austin when it comes to the media stuff, and everyone tends to want to work together.
And Troy, I think we have you to thank for a lot of that with your leadership in Skywarn, of you bringing in all the different broadcast meteorologists and having them, help you run Skywarn and be Skywarn speakers, and just everyone working together. And then the public gets to see that. And I think you're a big reason for this collaboration.
And we set that up before for Paul Ura down at the National Weather Service, warning coordination meteorologist, and we outreach to the people Matt works with and everyone else. And we do that annual training. It's an all-day training, and it involves, for the last few years, Matt is one of the speakers, talks about all the changes to ATX floods. And we have hundreds of people that'll show up for our Skywarn session in February every year. This year, I think we're going on to the 28th annual this year. So awesome. A lot of people involved.
And Matt, when we were talking during our test hangout, you mentioned the importance of the IWT. So talk about that integrated warning team and that experience and how that affected the project. And Kevin, maybe you, Dr. John, Aubrey, y'all can respond with some of your experience with IWTs in your areas.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of IWTs, and so that's basically the National Weather Service working together with broadcast media and emergency management, and just getting all these folks in the same room and spending a day talking, going through scenarios and collaborating. And I think that's the place you want to exchange business cards, exchange cell phone numbers, and get those relationships going. You want that to be kind of left of bang before your big flood or your big wildfire or whatever weather-related incident happens. I think the IWT is a fantastic place to get those good working relationships established. And then when the incident happens, people know each other and know how to work with each other.
Hit the nail on the head, Matt. I serve on the steering committee of the Central Pennsylvania IWT. And knowing who your stakeholders are and your partners face-to-face by name, that's a huge, huge step up. We ran a workshop a year ago, and I actually put together a tabletop exercise with some folks in the Weather Service office. And so we had our stakeholders go through a severe weather event throughout the afternoon of the 8-hour workshop. And it was an eye-opener for them to begin to put faces and names together and say, oh, these are the folks that I'm going to contact when I have to deal with this kind of situation. It was an eye-opener for them. So you're right. When that event eventually happens, they'll know who to turn to.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, I would echo that. It's been the same thing here. Yeah, Rick got IWT going not too long ago here, and I was hurt, and I just echo what everybody said. Kind of being in the same room, getting to know each other. It eliminates that. Who are those guys over there? I don't know who they are, and any hesitation to to not stay in communication with them is great.
Yeah, I think we. I'm kind of a little removed here in the Shenandoah Valley from a lot of our partners, but we do the NWS workshop, so that gives us a chance to really meet with the National Weather Service and other broadcasters. And I think just kind of on my own, I've been trying to really just get to know some of the local emergency managers and really build those partnerships with them here in the Shenandoah Valley. And I've had a wonderful response from them. And I kind of wonder why we didn't have those relationships already built in years past. But it's really coming along, and I enjoy it. And there should be that partnership. I mean, it's everyone working together for the common goal.
So there you go. Aubrey is her own IWT. She's a single woman IWT. That's for sure. Take us through it.
Show title.
I'm sorry. That's a show title. Good, Kevin. I'm glad we found it. And we got it in during the show instead of in the pre-show too. That's good. So, Matt, take us through sort of a tabletop exercise of how a scenario would work out. How would you guys roll into action, and what would happen if things were working the way you want them to?
So I mean, if we did a tabletop for an IWT, I mean, I think having the partners in the room is the most important thing. And so we'd have our broadcast media representatives. Then we'd have other government agencies. So obviously the National Weather Service, the Warning Coordination Meteorologists, there are forecasters there. And so then in Austin, we have the Colorado River that runs through Texas. So we'd have a representative from the Lower Colorado River Authority, and then from the feds, probably the United States Geological Survey. We'd have representatives from like a CERT team, a community emergency response team. And then we would just kind of go through the tabletop exercise and just kind of like, talk it out. And then, by talking it out, you find out gaps, you exercise the plan, and, you improve the plan, you find lessons learned, things like that.
So take us through a real life situation, kind of who rolls into action, and, are all those entities at the table at the EOC when an event happens? Take us kind of through, from the time from the excessive rainfall outlook to flash flood watch on through the warning process.
Well, I think we have so many kind of incidents and events in Austin, and a lot of times we'll have the same folks who come to these things. And so in Austin, we have probably 20 Type 1 events, kind of events of national significance. I mean, every UT football game, Troy, where you're the incident meteorologist, I mean, what's the attendance there? Probably 100,000 people at one of those games?
Yep, coming up Saturday night against Iowa State, UT, and Iowa State, 7 o'clock. We'll put in that ball game probably close to 101,000 people. And so there are just so many people, and there's so many partners that Matt knows so well that we all try to communicate the best we can. And I know that in the case of Matt, his group, at the University of Texas. It's not unusual in events that are somewhat well advertised that we don't have word out. I know, Matt, you send out emails that 2 or 3 days in advance say, let's just keep an eye on this.
Sure.
And we'll see things like, and the weather, Paul is great about this. The Weather Service in New Braunfels is saying, okay, what's the likelihood of this event? What's my forecast confidence? That's the big thing in our business now is tell me the forecast, but tell me your confidence in seeing how this is going to work out. So we see that a lot. I try to do that. I know that the Weather Service does. I know that Matt listens to everyone, gets a lot of input from folks, but that's sort of what we will do in Austin. And then, of course, you get kind of spun up into the event, and then it becomes more getting the warnings out, trying to get the folks at home to pay attention to the warnings. We here in Austin, as much as Matt, we see these sort of events. I still don't think people appreciate the power of moving water in a flash flood event. And somehow we have to educate people. James knows that I'm probably one of the most politically incorrect people anywhere. And I think people ought to watch video of people dying in flash floods. I think they ought to be made to watch it just to see what can happen in these events. But we have, I think it's because we bathe in water. I hope we swim in water, but these flash flood waters are not the same type of water. And people do not appreciate that. We somehow, from the National Weather Service on down, we have somehow got to educate the public and communicate this a little better, because it's not working. As many times as we have floods here, it's still that word is hard to get across to people sometimes.
So what do social scientists say? Well, I know you guys have talked about this, Dr. John, obviously. What do they tell you? We have this catchy saying, turn around, don't drown, but we continually see videos of it. What's the response as to why?
I don't think we want our livelihood interrupted, Bill. It's an inconvenience to go around a flooded roadway, even though that could mean death. I agree with you. I agree with what Troy's saying. There are signs in the washes in Arizona that say if you cross this wash and get stuck and have to be retrieved, you're going to pay for it. Monetarily, that is.
Let me tell you this, John, just so you know, and everyone here. And at first, my head was about to explode, which is not a far trip most of the time, but my head was fixing to explode in Williamson County a number of years ago. And Matt remembers this, when a mother took her child to the child's death in a flash flood. The mother survived, and she was charged criminally. I back that. That's what I feel like. You have to do that, unfortunately. But this woman was charged criminally for taking her child to the child's death in a low water crossing.
But then you see a situation like we saw in South Carolina this year, where some law enforcement officials actually drove through a flooded road and resulted in a tragedy when they were transporting 2 prisoners. And these things are just heart-rending.
Well, no, I will tell you that ever since the Memorial Day floods, and not quite that far back, but Sergeant Mike Slater at the Austin Police Department Training Academy years ago, Mike is retired now, but his work at the Training Academy, he asked me in 1993 to become an adjunct lecturer, civilian instructor at the Austin Police Department Training Academy. And still, every cadet that comes in for a full session, I spend 2 hours with them their last week of classes that they graduate. And I repeatedly talk to them about the fact that this is something they're going to witness and something they have to be very careful about. What Matt didn't tell you a few minutes ago was in the Memorial Day flood back in 1980, we had about 3 or 4 police officers in the attempt to try to rescue people had their cars washed away from them. We lost no police officers, but it's not hard. Just because the vehicle has a light bar on it, you don't have, I've told police, just because it has those pretty lights on top, don't think that vehicle will not kill you in a flash flood. And you've got to be very careful in how you do it. And I'm proud of the Austin Police Department just because they have someone in there doing it. Anyone could be able to do that, but I'm proud to be associated with them. And even in 2018, this is still going on. And I think it's a good move. And I'd like to see it more law enforcement agencies.
Well, I have to tell you, when I called Matt yesterday and we were getting ready to do our test, I had to throw all my original questions and notes out the window. Aubrey, have you ever played that game in a group where, you whisper something in someone's ear and then they turn and whisper it to the next person?
Telephone.
I swear, when I saw the email from Tony Rice, I believed that we were going to talk about shaming people with cameras tonight. So when I was talking to Matt, I was like, okay, tell me about this great program where you shame people with videos. And he's like, what are you talking about? That has nothing to do with it.
Hey, Matt, maybe that would work.
I'm willing to try it. Let's give it a shot. Let's have city legal approve it, and we'll do it.
That may be a little bit of a rocky road.
Yeah. So anyway, all my show notes were thrown out the window, and it was kind of the carrot or the stick. So I guess you guys are using a carrot instead of the stick here. So that's good news, I suppose. But you think in these sort of things, you think, oh, I got to go out and raise a couple $1 million to get my cameras, and I got to do all this stuff. You're not doing that, are you, Matt, for the cameras that you're using?
Okay, yeah. So the camera project. So this was kind of one of our lessons learned from the Halloween 2013 flood, and so the idea actually came from the state of Texas Department of Public Safety. And so met a really smart guy who worked there at the time. He was assigned to the intelligence and counterterrorism. His name was Joel Odd. And he was basically in charge of evaluating new technology and see how the state of Texas could use it to help troopers do their job. And so one of his projects was basically doing a narcotics interdiction along the Texas-Mexico border. And so it involved placing just inexpensive off-the-shelf game cameras at strategic locations along the border and using that for situational awareness. And so he came to us after 2013 Halloween flood and said, have you guys ever thought about using just cheap game cameras as flood sensors? And so kind of a traditional flood sensor, maybe one operated by the feds, is a highly precise piece of scientific equipment. It measures flood waters in like hundredths of an inch, and they're really expensive. Like these, a full out gauge can cost like $30,000. And so he was saying, could you use like a $300 game camera? It's just kind of a good enough solution. It's not going to be nearly as accurate as the $30,000 gauge, but is it good enough? And we thought, well, let's try it. And so we got a little bit of funding, and we threw up 3 of these cameras, and we really liked it. And so the most important thing for us was making the imagery publicly available. And so we thought the best place to do that was put it on ATX Floods. And so after Halloween 2013, we put up 3 cameras, one in Northwest Austin on a frequently flooded road, and then 2 in Onion Creek, the watershed that experienced the worst flooding. And we were really happy with it. And we've put up more. We just recently took several down for maintenance, and we're going out tomorrow morning to put them back up. So generally we have about 10 up at any one time.
Well, that's pretty cool. Troy, anything to add about the cameras? Because
no, but I want to point out to Matt that this is something that I was sort of watching Matt when they were doing this, and the amazing thing is the ingenuity from the folks at Watershed Protection to really think about this and take that information from the Texas Department of Public Safety, and you go out and get these cameras. He was looking at them from a low cost, and it really was amazing the work that Matt and them did to integrate this as part of the system. My hat's off to them, because it's nothing Troy Kimmel let her come up with. Trust me.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, excuse me. Yeah. So thanks to Texas Department of Public Safety for this great idea. We stole their idea.
Well, how can others kind of put this, to work for them? How can we spread the wealth of what you guys are doing?
If anyone wants to email us, we're happy to share kind of lessons learned about it. So I think there is another city in Texas that is doing this. So we gave a presentation at the State Emergency Management Conference a couple years ago, and one of the attendees was a little city outside of Dallas. And so I think the city of Rowlett, Texas now has a couple of these cameras up. And so we would love to see it spread to other places. We've had really good luck with it.
So Troy and Matt, who came up with the flash flood alley thing, that sounds like that really raises that awareness level of that situation a lot.
Yeah, and we just got to go a little step further. Somehow we have to be able to communicate this threat and really get people to understand it and to make smart decisions. Hector Guerrero at the weather office, the warning coordination meteorologist out at San Angelo, is the one who originally came up with turn around, don't drown. And I think that's gone a long way, but I still think we have a little more work to do in just communicating this threat to people, to the public, and trying to get them to understand it.
Yeah, I don't know what the best way is to communicate this. I mean, Troy and I have been talking about this for 13, 14 years, and Troy was doing it for many years before then. And I don't know what the answer is. I recently heard that ISIS made a propaganda video where they drowned people, and they put a bunch of waterproof GoPro cameras in a cage, and then they drowned people. And, this is a horrible thing to see. I mean, I don't want to see the video, but, ISIS is using people drowning as a propaganda tool.
Yeah. And I'm serious. This is one thing I know that originally, Matt, many years ago, this goes back to James and my day, but way back, originally one of the first, I guess, videos that the Weather Service ever put out on flash flooding. I know that they had to remove part of a video out of there because it did show someone being killed. And my whole thing is maybe that's what we need to see. Maybe we need to see more of these videos just to be able to communicate this can happen to you. I don't know, Matt. I'm like you. There's something I want to be, and I know I know it has to be with the social scientists, John, and I know that's got to be the case, but somehow there has to be something else we can use, but don't know. Can't come up with it tonight.
I wonder what the average person does when a flash flood warning is issued. Do they do anything? Do they ignore it? Does it mean anything to them? I don't know. That's a social science question.
Yeah. I think maybe, we sit around, I sit here and think, okay, I live up on a hill. I'm in good shape. And you assume you do. But I've had water off the back here before when we've had heavy rain right here overhead, and come down here and I said, that water's not supposed to be there. And I wonder how many times that's ever been said, Yep.
All right. Well, let's tell you what, guys, let's take a quick break here and let's do Tony Rice and the astronomy report. We're going to come back with the weather roundup, and we will do picks of the week. We'll talk more about Kevin's social media situation and much more as WeatherBrains as WeatherBrains rolls along. Y'all hang tight.
Looking beyond the atmosphere, here's Tony Rice with your astronomy outlook.
It's not every day you can see a rocket launch from your front porch, especially if you don't live in Florida. But if you live from New England down to the Carolinas, you might just be able to catch a glimpse of the Antares rocket lifting off from Wallops Island, Virginia, on a cargo flight to the International Space Station. Launch is set for 4:49 Eastern, Thursday, November 15th, but be patient. Even those in Washington, D.C., all the way down to Virginia Beach, won't see the exhaust flame from the rocket until a full minute after launch. This is due to the curvature of the Earth. Raleigh and Philadelphia should see it about 2 minutes after launch, and New York City and Wilmington, North Carolina should look about 3 minutes after launch. These night launches have been visible in the past, 100 or more miles inland as well, especially from the higher elevations. Visit nasa.gov/wallops, WALLOPS, for the Mission Status Center, which includes a cool new app that will help point you in the right direction to see the launch. It even has an audio feed of the countdown. Clear weather between you and the launch site is necessary, of course. It's your astronomy outlook. Follow me at RTP Hokie for more spacey stuff like this.
When the weather ball is red, warmer weather is ahead. When the weather ball is white, colder weather is in sight. When the weather ball is green, no change in the weather is foreseen. When colors blink by night or day, precipitation's on the way.
Doing the show on November 17th, 2018. Time to talk weather across the nation. And Kevin, pretty cold. I guess the snow is a little north of you, north and west of you.
Kevin got a record today at SPS.
Yeah, we had a trace of snowfall, and that set a record.
Ooh.
I know. Yeah, it's pretty early, but it's going to be cold tonight. We have cold nights the next couple, mid-20s, even low 20s, especially tomorrow night. They set Rick set a record, or close by, for snowfall in Oak City for the date. They did 0.8 inches of snow. We just had, a few flakes on and off during the day. The heavier snowfall totals are in the Panhandle. I'm trying to think the biggest one. I can't remember the name of it. I think they did 9.5 inches. It was somewhere in the Panhandle. Amarillo did 6 and had thunder snow last night, which was exciting.
It turns out thunder snow is a lot more common than we think, isn't it, Dr. John?
Certainly around the Great Lakes it is, Bill. And that's where I've witnessed it.
Yeah.
All right.
And we had records here, James. We had 3 rainfall records. But you know what was interesting? Most of the rainfall records were around 1.25 inches for Anniston, Montgomery, and Tuscaloosa. But Birmingham's rainfall record for the day is 4.04 inches.
Oh, wow.
And it's radically different from all the other ones we got. I don't know what our official total was here. I got 1.34 at my house.
Yeah, the biggest number I just saw coming across the board, and again, we're down here in the deep south, and it's been, instead of snow, obviously, we had rain here. Biggest number was, let's see. We had one over 5 inches that it just came in just a second ago.
Station, James. Did you see that?
Yeah, wasn't totally sure of the validity of that, but I would assume that might be correct. But I'm looking at a national observation, a screen grab off a weather station of 5.08 in the eastern side of the state, and had tornado watch earlier today. And what was kind of scary, at one point we had a couple of supercells offshore that were rotating with strong evidence of a water spout moving right in the direction of the landfall point of Hurricane Michael, Tyndall Air Force Base and Mexico Beach. And to my knowledge, there was no damage down there today, but that was kind of a scary sight to see for our friends down there. So, Troy, what's happening in Tejas?
Well, looking at the old National Weather Service MMTS system here, the thermometer shows in northwest Austin, James, 37.6 degrees. We're going to go for near freezing tonight. I think, Matt, is what the Weather Service has got for our area. And tomorrow night, upper 20s. That would climatologically put us about 2 to 3 weeks earlier than usual for a freeze in the Austin metro area. So it's interesting. Skies clear later tonight and tomorrow. Sunshine the next few days, but it's definitely chilly in the deep part south central Texas.
And it looks like we're going to see some snow down into Arkansas and maybe northwest Tennessee, down toward Dyersburg over the next 24 hours with this upper low that's lifting out from Troy's region out there. And it's getting cold kind of early. So, Aubrey, what you got the wedge going on, don't you? What you got going on over there?
I hate the wedge. I hate the wedge.
Cold air down.
Oh, man. And it's so, especially, really early in the season, it's so tricky. So, I've got a decent handle on forecasting a wedge, generally, but then when you throw in winter precip, it mixes everything up. So we're going to be battling a lot of wintry weather on Thursday morning, it looks like.
Yeah.
And James, I just saw the death toll in California is up to 49 on the fire.
Oh man.
Wow.
Yeah, we ought to bring in some of our friends from California at some point to be on the show to talk about the situation, which is far from over, which it's pretty rough out there.
Red flag warnings are in effect still tonight for the foreseeable future here.
I love Dr. John's video. For those that are listening, I see water vapor in motion.
Yeah.
Are you guys as enthralled with the GOES 16 imagery as I am? I just stare at this every day. But we go to school. We go to school on this. So what we're looking at here is a loop. And for those, I'll just try to talk you through it. But you can see the deformation zone that produced the snow across the panhandle of Texas and Oklahoma earlier. And the moisture surge again across Pacific, across old Mexico into the Gulf of Mexico. You can see the V signature and the cold cloud tops. That's where that severe weather was earlier today. And Aubrey and I, it's raining again. I'm looking at my thermometer. It's 39.2 and rain here in lovely Lancaster, Pennsylvania. And where we are sitting already at 9 or 10 inches above average for the year. So we are the wettest year on record right now in Lancaster. Wow. And we still have a good 6 to 7 weeks to go.
You're only 9 inches above average?
About 10. About 10.
Wow.
Yeah, you know what? If I can show this to you. Here we go. So let's see if I can show this to you. Can you see that?
Ooh, fancy.
Right. So this is actually going to be my pick of the week, but the black line represents our current accumulated rainfall. So here we are at 50 some odd inches, right? 55 inches or so. And we actually passed the climatological annual number back on September 1. So it's absurd how much rain we've had here.
We are 30, 40.
You're sure of breaking that record.
We're over 20 inches above average. And, I saw an interesting fact about the Shenandoah Valley today is that we are the driest region, because we're in the rain shadow. We're the driest region as far south and east as our location is. So the reason we're so high above average is because typically we're in a rain shadow and our yearly average is lower than most everyone else's, especially in the area. So we're up to over 55 inches also, but that's over, 25.
Oh, that's way above average. I see. Yeah, way above.
And what's interesting now, Dr. John, and we've had this the last couple of systems we've had, is we're in the process of getting dry slotted right now, which happens here in the Shenandoah Valley a lot, especially with our setup. And that's one thing I'm looking at for Thursday, is wondering where this dry slot is going to set up.
Yeah.
For those who are listening too, just because John is to say what John is showing, he's got the College of DuPage goes page up, but he's showing the mid-level water vapor. And I just wanted to comment that I love that product to begin with, but I liked it so much that we actually mimicked that color table, and we use it on TV for two reasons. Number one, I love it. And number two, it would make any consultant watching take a leap out the window.
Oh, yes.
Anything to do that.
Heads will explode. Yes.
Yes.
I agree with you, Kevin. We actually changed ours to that too.
It's
awesome.
Great. I love it.
It's awesome.
Had a chance to visit the College of DuPage last year, and they put a lot of work into their webpage and the data that they offer. And with this satellite imagery, I will say it is just stunning. And they have an app as well with model output and satellite imagery. So that's pretty cool stuff. So let's see here. Aubrey, have you got time for email?
I do. I was actually just logging into it right now.
Ooh, well, in that case, let's dive in there and see if something's going on here. Time to check that email now.
Letters. We get letters. We get stacks and stacks of letters.
All right. WeatherBrains. Did I read that? What's today's date? Today is the 12th. Okay, so this one, actually, I read this one already. Have we not had anything come in this week?
I don't.
That's a shock. We're typically behind on email. Maybe we're finally caught up. Wow.
I actually don't see anything unless
So this is your chance.
On again,
send an email.
So this is, hey, if you want to send us an email, send it over to us. Email at weatherbrains.com.
Here's the assignment. Everybody that listens, and what are we doing? About 10, 12,000? Everybody send an email to Aubrey tonight.
Yeah. Yes.
No. I have a busy week.
That is like awesome. Her inbox will explode. All right, so let's go around and do picks of the week then. This is where we're going to go around the horn. Everybody shares something that is weather related. This can be a website, hardware, software, a book, anything vaguely related to weather. So Aubrey, since you kind of didn't have a long email segment, let's start with you. What do you got for us this week?
All right, so mine, I'm actually going to tout my own horn here. So mine is going to be my Etsy shop because I have recently added a couple of really cool weather products, including a heartbeat weather sign with a tornado. So it's like your heart beats tornado, and a cool weather clock with all the international weather symbols. So a couple of cool weather things, maybe for that special meteorologist in your life or storage chaser as you get ready to shop for the holidays. So I thought it was time to add a few weather products to our line.
So now you've just spoiled
WeatherBrains shows till Christmas, Aubrey.
What were you saying, Kevin?
You've spoiled all of our Christmas gifts now to us.
I know. And if anyone else is looking for, I also have on if you guys can see it for our listeners, the rain earrings. So those are from Downtown 10, which I found out one of our female meteorologists who's in our group, her son actually started this website, downtown10.com, as a school project. And she wouldn't let him mark up a lot of the prices on things because it's a school project. So the prices are actually very, very affordable. And they have all sorts of they have a bunch of different kind of jewelry, but they have a lot of weather jewelry. So I know we have a lot of guys listening. For that special lady in your life who loves jewelry and she's into weather, there's some great weather related earrings and stuff on there. So get your lists out for Christmas.
Hey, James, I think Aubrey just found a way for us to make money. We can be the QVC of weather.
You got that right. Yeah. A whole new opportunity right here. All right. Let's see. Kev, what you got for us this week?
I'm going to have to take Foghorn this week.
You beat me to it.
Whoa. All right.
Sorry.
My pick is this piece actually was written back in February of this year from Live Science. Global warming versus solar cooling. The showdown begins in 2020. I'm seeing more and more buzz about the lack of solar activity. The sun is dead. The chance of going back in one of these, Maunder minimum things, which occurred way back between 1645 and 1715 when I started doing weather on television here. But that was the Little Ice Age, and very, very interesting to me. I think the sun is just fascinating, and it's gone quiet, eerily quiet. And the question is, could there be a direct impact on the Earth and the climate in the next few decades? I don't know the answer to that, but it's a very interesting read, and going to see a lot of buzz about that. All right, Troy, what you got for us this week?
I was thinking about the James, and nothing really fancy here, but I've got to look back at the last week or so and think about all of our colleagues. We know people in California that are working this fire weather desk out there for the Weather Service, and all the firefighters and everyone else, and how bad it's been out there. But I just guess my hat's off to all the hardworking men and women out there that have helped to forecast this event. We saw this in advance, and it's been much, much worse than we ever thought it would be. But I've got to do hats off to our Weather Service colleagues, private sector meteorologists, and the men and women first responders that are coming in from all over the country to help, and our prayers with those folks.
Yeah, no kidding. That's just a horrible, hellacious situation that I don't understand. I've never been involved in anything like that. I watch it from a distance, and I would imagine it's like tornadoes. The video doesn't really tell the story. It can't capture the horror that they're having to deal with. And again, they're going to be under the gun for the next several days. So, all right, John, I can't wait. Your first pick of the week in a while. What you got for us?
Well, I first want to show you from the ATX floods page. This is fantastic, guys. So I wanted to share this video that's on that website. Look at this bridge collapse.
Yeah.
Remember, that's just unbelievable. So we've been speaking about water. So here's my pick of the week. This is actually an ArcGIS web viewer that was put together. I believe the gentleman's name is Jared Rennie. He's a research associate with NC State. Yeah, and this is a fantastic page. So you just zoom in like I did earlier. I'm going to zoom right in on Lancaster.
You're screen sharing the Google Hangout, John.
Yeah,
well, that wasn't so smart, was it? Sorry, guys. Let's try it again.
And by the way, emails are starting to come in, Aubrey. So
I do. And so, John, after this, bring the water vapor back up after the show.
Bring up that picture of you at the Packers game too, John. We want to
Yeah, we have to talk about that before we're off. But here's the website that I've been using, and it just shows the last 30 years of accumulated rainfall. You can see the mean, the min, the max, and here we are in Lancaster. We've had already 10 24-hour periods where we've tied or set new records.
Wow.
This year. So insane.
Now that price of that pick of the week is worth the price of admission for the whole past 13 years of WeatherBrains. I'm stealing that immediately.
So, Matthew, we've given you 5 minutes here to figure out something. So, do you, sir, have a pick of the week for us?
Let's see. This might get me banned from ever appearing on your show again, but someone sent me this, and I don't know if you can see it. Let's see here. No more MFing rain for MFing Austin.
Trust me, we've had worse on this show. No worries.
You hadn't shared my email.
We've taken this thing totally down the tubes here. All right, Bill, what you got for us?
Well, I'm going to, of course, take my traditional foghorn. I'll pick L's. My pick of the week. But, James, I'm really excited. Next week, we have Dr. Ken Dewey on the show. Then Curtis Alexander, the group that works on the HRRR, will be with us on December 3rd. Jeremy Bauer, the folks at National Weather Service Honolulu, are going to join us on the 10th. And Rich Thompson will be here on our special Christmas show on Thursday the 20th. But on Monday, December 17th, the author of the book that I don't know that anybody ever read, which is called Authors of the Storm, Gary Allen Fine, will be on. And we're going to have Jim Stefkovich and Keith Stellman, two great MICs from the National Weather Service, to talk about some of the amazing insights that were in that book. I shared it with Troy tonight. He's going to order it and buy it. So everybody needs to get that off Amazon.
Is this a new book?
No, it came out in 2009.
Okay.
And it was an amazing deep dive into the Weather Service and its culture. And
I've been wanting to read a book about this ever since Isaac Storm kind of talked about some of the culture.
Well, go get this book. I showed Troy tonight there. I have 172 Post-it notes inside the book. So maybe the longest show we've ever had. And now, especially with our new esteemed panelists on the show, it should be a great one. So mark that on your calendars, Monday, December 17th, Gary Allen Fine. And James, that'll carry us up to the end of the year, and then we're going to start getting some new guests, Aubrey. So when you get these 12,000 emails tonight, maybe there'll be a few thousand suggestions in there.
All right, awesome. And can I share one of the emails that I got?
Sure.
Go.
Okay. Wayne Thompson sent this in. Love listening to you all. Tell Kim, though, that she is very much missed. Can you please explain the colors on the latest graphic? The white, the blue, and the pink, which I believe is probably coming through as pink, which is more so the yellow with the water vapor. I sort of thought the white might be moisture, rain, or such.
Dr. John?
Absolutely. Right. So what we're looking at is the remote sense of water vapor content in the atmosphere. So where you're seeing yellows and even oranges, exceptionally dry. And where you see the blues going to whites and greens, that's where all the moisture is.
Yeah, this mesmerizing for that. And again, we know most of you listen and you can't see this, but if you go to the College of DuPage site, weather.cod.edu, and go to their Go 16 viewer, all the different bands are there. And I will say that is kind of awesome because you can see this at day, at night. It's always there and really tells a story. And again, it's just almost mesmerizing here. But I'm the lead on the newscaster. I got to go. So real quick, Kevin, one question for you.
And they're calling for me.
Yeah, concerning social media.
Yeah.
So you have a high risk issued for your area. In the day 2 outlook, so it's the next day, and you need to reach as many people as you can concerning an extremely dangerous, life-threatening severe weather outbreak. Would you go back on social media to communicate that information?
Well, we have a good number of people that follow the station page. I don't think it would make any, given your example, I don't think it would make any sense for me to put up a page with my name on it. But I could, yes, go to the station page. Outside of specific weather information, as I've kind of alluded to, and I've promoted that Frontline special, these folks are just doing bad things, and it's very difficult for me to support that anymore. Who was it? I was listening to an interview with A.G. Sulzberger, the new publisher of the New York Times, and he called them something like the biggest information or media monopoly in the history of mankind. And there's another guy, John Galloway, who's a big pundit and commenter and entrepreneur. He says that Cheryl and Mark are going to go down as the two worst and most dangerous business leaders in history. So it's just hard to support that mission anymore.
So one more, we got to go in like 30 seconds. So if you were me, and if you take Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook and add the followers, it's like over 1 million.
Mm-hmm.
Would you, and I'm reaching gobs of people with critical weather information, would you dump those accounts?
What percentage of those people are in your DNA?
I have no earthly idea. I don't have a way of knowing. It's probably half and half.
It becomes more and more difficult every day because the more we have used it, the more entrenched it becomes. And that's part of what Mark and Cheryl are counting on, is that it's become a part of the fabric of life. And so it becomes more and more difficult to get away from it. I guess the answer to the question is we need to go off and much in the same way that some of the panelists and Troy and others are saying, we need better education. Well, we need to go build something that's better than what that is. But I don't see anybody moving in that direction, despite my trying to do so.
Yep. All right. We could talk about this all night, but we do have to go. Yep. So let's see. Matthew, if somebody wants to get in touch with you, are you on social media at all? Not to get.
Yeah.
Kevin mad, but.
Yeah. My kind of work account is Matt Fuse, MATTFEWS, and I also run the ATX Floods account for the city. And so I basically kind of tweet interchangeably with those two.
Excuse me, Matt, but la 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 la.
Yeah. All right. Okay. So we've got to wrap this sucker up here. I almost ripped a whole wardrobe here a couple of weeks ago. I looked up and it was like 2 minutes before airtime, and I was wearing this, and I got to put on some TV clothes, and I was doing the Superman thing, and it didn't work out very well. Hey, listen, if you want to get in touch with us, and we need 10,000 of you to send Aubrey an email this week. Email at weatherbrains.com. Just tell Aubrey that you like her. That's all you need to do. And our social media accounts, except Kevin's, are up on the website, weatherbrains.com. We typically do the show Monday nights at 9:30 Eastern, 8:30 Central. And many people watch at live.bigbrainsmedia.com. But we know that most of you listen. So we thank you so much for listening, taking the time to join us every week. On behalf of the entire WeatherBrains crew, I'm James Spann. Thanks for listening. Have a great week and God bless.
Outstanding show.
Right.
Thanks, everybody.
Great. Thanks, everybody. Fun show tonight. Thank you all.